Welcome to Manage Your Damn Money with Ben and Malcolm, where we are taking a moment to acknowledge the passing of Laker great Mr. Kobe Bryant, and also the families of Altobelli, Mosser, Chester, and Zobayan families, all involved in the tragic Los Angeles helicopter accident that happened not too long ago. There were loss of children, which makes this especially difficult. We'd like to send our prayers and thoughts from here at Manage Your Damn Money and Montgomery Community Media to all the families involved. Malcolm, so when we think about Kobe Bryant, the reason why we're talking about this in part is because you and I both are Laker fans, pretty dedicated Laker fans. When I think about Kobe Bryant, I literally think about my childhood. Kobe debuted in 1996 for the Lakers. I was 9 years old, living in Southern California. It was right at the transition from Vlade Divac, Eddie Jones, Nick Van Axel, all those guys. Names some people be like, oh yeah, I remember those guys.
Swingman.
Right, indeed. And it's transitioned into the Shaq and Kobe era. And that carried on, with their dynasties, 3 championships, then the 2 championships with Pau Gasol and company, all the way into grad school for me at 23. And now we're back with LeBron James, where the Lakers are at prominence. What are some of your thoughts when it comes to Kobe Bryant?
So, kind of to your point, like I feel like I almost grew up with the dude. Granted, he's 10 years roughly our senior, but like from watching just regular TV shows, and music videos with Kobe in them, and basketball aside, like just pop culturally relevant events where you would see him show up. That was a big deal too back then. And then also like the street ball phenomenon, I guess is the word, that existed at the time. So you had the and ones and the Rucker Park phenomenon, where you had folks like Kobe and Carmelo and I think Kevin Durant was probably like the last class of guys to actually play outside like that. But Kobe came straight from like fresh off the plane from Philly and like dominated one of those games, and like just culturally from, like you said, 9-10 years old on, dude was always around basketball.
Yeah, definitely. It's a pretty shocking loss. I still see the news and I still see like the stories and his face everywhere. It still doesn't feel real to me. There's like a surrealty to it. I feel like I'm in a different universe where this is some movie and then it's gonna come up and we'll realize that it wasn't the case. What do you think, Malcolm, that his life and specifically his work meant to millennials in particular?
Well, I think, man, that's a good question. I think a lot of millennials are about the same age as us, slightly older, slightly younger, that are saying the same thing. Like I've been seeing this dude on TV, I've been going to games, I've been, anywhere you turn around where basketball is concerned, the name Kobe Bryant is as ubiquitous as Michael Jordan or LeBron James.
Right.
Like, regardless of where you fall on the hierarchy of who is better than who, those 3 names are basketball.
Absolutely.
Right. And so when you just think about like the weight of like that impact on the sport, it's like, man, like.
I think about, when you talk about millennials, my friend was telling me a story, and I think this was unrelated before the tragedy took place, but he was talking about his daughter who's 3, and when she like shoots a piece of trash, she would say, Kobe! Which is like, she never saw Kobe play, but to your point about the ubiquity of his name in particular, I've had a lot of conversations with friends. What have your conversations been with friends about, processing all of this?
I haven't really had that many conversations. Like, so when the news broke, I was sitting on the couch with my wife, like watching TV, and she happened to be like in the middle of a group chat conversation with her friends, and somebody like dropped the news headline in the group chat, and she's like, well, this is strange. Like, why are people trying to kill Kobe off? And then like it progressively became truer and truer.
Then that news outlets that are reputable began
So
reporting
beyond TMZ, all of a sudden people who actually are respectable news outlets. Reputable is the nice way to say it. Respectable is my word. But it became realer and realer, and what was interesting is it became quieter and quieter between us in the living room, sitting there like this is real. Like, and then all of a sudden, like, we looked at each other and like, why do we care so much?
Wow.
Like, not that you shouldn't care when there's a loss of life in general, right? Anybody, your family or a person across the street. But just in general, like, I've never met Kobe Bryant before in my life.
Yeah.
Never had a conversation with the guy on the phone or anything like that. But I feel like personally impacted by this one.
Right.
So it's just strange that, like, I haven't completely been able to process what this even really means or why I even feel the way I do toward it.
Yeah. I, on my end, definitely shed several tears. Felt like to your point, I couldn't really put my finger on what it was initially. But I think, at least thus far, only recently removed from it, and today, where we sit here today talking about it, I think, there was clearly, through my life, an impact just through the level of excellence that was there and that you were seeing. And for me, the thing that I've taken away, at least thus far, is that, everyone knows what the Mamba mentality meant for Kobe Bryant in terms of being in the gym at, 6 a.m., getting up 1,000 shots, and what that means for how it translates on the court. I think that means something in terms of everyone else pursuing their own goals with that same level of veracity. And so I'm thinking, for me, like, that's the thing that thus far I'm taking away. Like, okay, you got to do it. And if you want to do it, you got to do it that way with that level of intensity. So, I don't know. It'll be an interesting one. I think our generation, our particular generational cohort, and those who watched those, many Laker games and watched his career, this is going to be a tough one to get through.
I think it's especially tough because there's not anyone or anything necessarily to blame. So when, for example, Michael Jackson or Prince died and the news came out, it was like, oh man, not, Prince, not Michael Jackson.
Right.
And then a few minutes later, it's like he overdosed on drugs. And it's like, okay, I can immediately blame
Or rationalize.
the drugs or rationalize.
Right.
But in this scenario, like, dude was just commuting, taking his daughter to basketball practice, minding his business.
Right.
So then I think there also becomes the realness of that, right? Like the fact that even in going about your day-to-day, minding your business, being a good, citizen, like, all of us have an expiration date at some point.
Right.
And so the realness of that, I think, also is what's been made candidly, right there in your face by this whole.
And I'll close with saying this. For me, at least, the immediate thought that I'm having is, there's just a part of me, and I think it's the child part of me, that feels like Kobe's, and everybody in the helicopter is gonna be like, we back, like, in the fourth quarter, and it just doesn't feel like the correct final note on the situation. And so you have to, like, realize, like, wow, like, despite his greatness in his particular area of work, and then, he did a whole bunch of stuff as a retired player, a retired person.
Was just getting, like, his career as an investor, like, the last 2 or 3 years off the ground.
He was doing his thing as a father. I have 3 little girls myself. And so, all that seemed like, it's just a ...
Yeah.
And it's like, this story can't end this way. So I think it's certainly up to us in the world who are still here in the land of the living to continue to do our work with that Mamba mentality. And with that, I remind you, you're listening and watching Manage Your Damn Money. We will be right back.